Hi, hope everyone's doing well. I'm back on YouTube again for another garbled, dribbling nonsense from my kind of atypical, potentially neurodivergent and quite demonstrably defective mind. I kind of want to separate the wheat from the chaff in this video, and I want to explain how, although nobody's interested, how some things have made me feel, other than the sweat you can see protruding through my unironed shirt, having just got out of the shower on my room number 2 at the lodge at Cygnet's Q-Stokes Lodge in Weston-super-Mare. I have previously been prosecuted, apparently by my half-sister Lily Allen, for harassment under Section 4A of the Protection from Harassment Act. And I don't want to do or say anything which is going to indict or inflict those kind of risks again. I've been told by staff at the hospital who have just Googled it that Lily isn't my sister. I've never met her, and that I'm delusional. I shouldn't talk about these sort of things. I've been told by patients and people in the community to quite blatantly just shut the fuck up if I try and talk about her having suffered, or my beliefs that she'd been genitally mutilated and they tried to blow me to bits. I would have been left probably blind with no hands and spending the rest of my life in Broadmoor for a crime I didn't commit, if these people have been successful, which is just a belief that I have. I want to separate and differentiate two separate things. So Lily Allen is my sister. We were introduced by my father when I was a teenager. He gave me her phone number. I phoned her up. She got the train to Exeter. I was living on Queen's Crescent, and we spent loads of time together. We were very close for a short time. We went to go and stay in a hotel in London together. I remembered this very vividly. We don't talk anymore. I don't know why after we lost sort of touch, I had a severe amnesia. I had an episode of catatonic neurological injury where I spent about 3 weeks in hospital, and couldn't remember my own name. And then just shortly after that, my best friend died of, sadly, an overdose. He was just 18 years old, and I left Exeter, and after 5-10 years I'd forgotten half of the things and people that I'd known when I was in Exeter. That included Lily. I used to see her pictures on Instagram and kind of think that I was strangely drawn to them, but I'd forgotten who she was. I'd forgotten that we'd spent 3 or 4 months, as brother and sister. We went to go and stay together in a hotel in London and got really high, and kind of that part of my memory, when it returned, is unequivocal. But this stuff about genital mutilation and explosives, I've never seen any bits of mutilated genitals. I've never seen any explosives. All I saw was a newly placed tile that had been replaced into my house after I'd been out to get a new hard drive, and loads of shit in the media, loads of stuff in the media that kind of nods to it. And I am trying to recover. I tried to not be here about 3 times in the last 6 months. And aligning myself with the truth and separating what might be delusional beliefs that serve no purpose from the truth. I mean, I don't know why Lily and I don't speak. I don't know why, I don't expect her to like me or respect me, have any love for me. I don't know if we fell out as teenagers. Like, I was a bit of a chauvinistic, womanizing prick as a teenager, and there were a lot of people I lost touch with around that time. And I don't know why it is that there's so much corroborating evidence, but what I'm trying to do is present to you as the viewer a completely unbiased and open narrative as to how my brain got into thinking that somebody tried to blow me to bits after brutally mutilating my half-sister, because I was sat on a load of evidence that implicated the NHS and the police and the banks. I'm not saying they're involved in any way, shape or form, nor am I implying it. But I had been doing a lot of investigative work, and there were a lot of inconsistencies with my mother and father's death, and there was a lot of things that went. I tried to send my mum's death certificate to the banks 10 times by recorded delivery. To HSBC, they lost it. Halifax, they lost it. NatWest, they lost it. Santander, they lost it. Lloyd's lost it, and some of them lost it multiple times. And they paid me thousands of pounds in compensation, and like I bought my brother a sports car, a Hyundai Coupe, only 500, 600 quid or something. But I was just being flabbergasted by the bank's inability to be able to receive my mother's death notification, and it just seemed like there was this endemic conspiracy, and all of this was on YouTube, along with about 500 phone call recordings which featured various different people at the point this happened. I went out. I used to have CCTV in my house. I used to leave the house once a week, and I went out and left my home with no CCTV for the first time in probably a year. And I went and bought a new second-hand hard drive, I think from Plymouth, just one that had been cannibalised out of a Skybox or something, just a basic SATA hard drive to put into the DVR box of the CCTV that I had in every room in my house, and covered the outside of the house too. And when I got back, somebody had laid a tile on the windowsill, and like the filler was like thick, like a cake filling, and it was still wet, and there was like a file, like a chisel, and like a big screwdriver, and loads of stuff that you would kind of use to sort of like prise underneath this thing to see why they'd done it. And that's all that I saw, that's all that I witnessed, that's the only testimony I've got. I never lifted up the tile because I got a bad feeling about it. I just thought maybe I'll just leave this how it is. And as the media and I was sectioned about 3 days later. The cops came, turned up. I was absolutely fine. As far as I was concerned, I'd given up smoking and drinking and drugs. I was working out loads. I was doing very well on my detective and investigative work. And suddenly I was subject to about 15 police outside my house. And this was about four days after this tile had been laid. And I was taken to hospital, and things didn't go very well when I was taken to hospital by Devon Partnership Trust. There was a nurse called Dr. Kant at Haytor Ward. There was another RMN called Tilly Reed, and like if I'd lifted up this tile, it would have been sort of like the action of a book. And I had like recordings of her, and it seemed like the NHS were sort of nodding or mocking what had happened. And I don't think the NHS were involved. The NHS saved people. My mum was an NHS nursing student and worked for the NHS. Sorry, I had to cut there. Someone just came to come and do my obs at the door, which you can just see in shot. I'll make sure it's out of shot for the rest of this video. Move myself over on these heavy safety chairs. I don't know what happened, basically, and I don't want to kind of like accuse anybody, harass anybody, put any information out there which isn't right. But at the same time, it's really difficult looking at all of the different points of reference and coming to the conclusion that I've just discovered a series of infinitesimally improbable coincidences which all correlate towards a common theme. And first of all, I'm going to read you another piece of writing which I've generated. A deeper dive, coalescing coincidences and the struggle for reality in recovery. Introduction, the compelling nature of ongoing perceptions. My journey of navigating and reconciling profoundly unsettling narratives continues as new observations from the public domain consistently present themselves in ways that feel remarkably resonant with the delusional frameworks I've been processing. This presentation offers a deeper explanation of this ongoing internal process, focusing on how seemingly disparate public content, despite my conscious efforts to frame them as part of a delusional belief system from which I'm recovering, coalesce in a manner that I struggle to comprehend as purely coincidental. I want to be unequivocally clear. I am not alleging or accusing any specific party, nor am I in any way harassing, deriding, slandering, or making intentionally or descriptively libelous connotations with the publication of my ongoing battles with my mental health. I am certain Lily is my sister. We were introduced by our father, Diorsa William John MacLeod, as teenagers, but I'm still struggling to come to terms with the concept that her alleged genital mutilation is purely a symptom of my schizoaffective disorder. This presentation is about my personal struggle to rationalise these recurring patterns within the context of my recovery. The unsettling coincidence of silly. A recent and particularly striking instance that added to my mental struggle was the immediate appearance of Lily Allen and her co-host Makita Oliver's video on BBC Sounds and Instagram, which instantly featured the word silly. From the perspective of the delusional belief system I'm attempting to shed, this felt like an extraordinarily rapid and precise response, a subtle yet powerful nod to the private thoughts I'd recently documented regarding her alleged genital mutilation and the supposed hand grenade planted in the windowsill at my home with her dismembered vagina. While rationally I strive to dismiss this as mere coincidence, within the framework of my personal struggle, it felt like a tacit acknowledgement, a bizarre Miss Me post that confirmed the unsettling rightness of my delusions. I perceive this as a figment of my imagination, yet one that presents as a bizarre coincidence with persistent ties to a perceived reality. The Saturday kitchen, octopus, pussy and public humiliation. Another highly impactful point within my delusional narrative stems from Lily Allen's appearance on Saturday Kitchen in 2018. My delusional interpretation of this event is profoundly unsettling. When Lily was served octopus, I perceived this as a subtle yet deeply cruel derision, referencing the slang term pussy, a colloquialism for the vagina, which, within my delusional framework, Lily no longer possesses due to a severe and graphic assault and the coincident attempt on my life. The Daily Express article covering the event, titled "Outrageous," further cemented this delusional conviction. It appeared to preemptively frame the content with defensive language and disgruntled tweets, as if to mitigate any outlandish claims that I might make. The chef Andy Oliver, mother of Miss Me co-star Makita Oliver, allegedly presented dishes with an emphatically corollary quip, "Here's your non-octopi," which I interpreted as another coded implicatory reference to pussy. The visual distress I observed in Lily as she ate, coupled with the coy questioning about her thoughts on the meal, made these delusional perceptions feel incredibly convincing of extensive referencing in the journalistic sphere and a motivation of sheer, utter cruelty. Linguistic manipulation, exploded and attacked as concealment. My delusional belief system has also led me to a detailed analysis of perceived linguistic manipulation in interviews concerning Lily Allen. I've noted a specific phrasing where her career is described as having exploded at the same time as social media's rise, followed by a description of her being attacked. Within my delusional framework, the term exploded, while typically referring to a sudden success, felt like an introduction designed to deflect from serious discussions. Similarly, attacked, commonly used for criticism or backlash, was, to my delusional mind, deployed to conceal a far more serious, brutal physical assault, possibly involving explosives and a dismembered body part. The perceived juxtaposition and sequence of these terms felt far from coincidental. This linguistic strategy, in my delusional interpretation, serves to normalise violence against Lily within the typical public scrutiny faced by celebrities, thereby trivialising the grave accusations of physical violence. This further makes me struggle to comprehend how all of this content has just appeared coincidentally, if nothing ever really happened. Persistent echoes, explosives, Game of Thrones and Priscilla. Other pieces of information, now part of my Google Drive folder, continually reinforce the strength of these delusional beliefs and add to my struggle to rationalise them as a coincidence. Explosives on Saturday morning show, a distinct reference to explosives during one of Lily's Saturday morning show appearances with my delusional narrative. This felt like an uncanny and unsettling echo of the alleged hand grenade incident, adding another layer of coincidental reinforcement. Alfie Allen, who's Lily's other brother, fictional mutilation, the portrayal of Lily's brother Alfie undergoing fictional genital mutilation in the script of Game of Thrones. This fictional narrative, viewed through the lens of my delusional belief concerning Lily's alleged mutilation, felt profoundly jarring and eerily resonant. While I understand it as fiction, its appearance within this broader context makes my delusional connections feel incredibly strong. Lily's cat, Priscilla. The information that Lily's cat is named Priscilla has also, within my delusional belief system, created a deeply disturbing linguistic connection, with pussy being a colloquial term for the vagina, which, in my delusional narrative, was mismet with dismembered, and the name Priscilla sounding remarkably similar to windowsill, the alleged location of the explosive device and dismembered body part. This seemingly innocuous detail made my delusional perceptions feel all the more convincing. Conclusion: a recovery journey of rational discrimination. I'm absorbing this coincidentally coalescing content with rational discrimination, striving to maintain a belief that I am recovering from a delusional belief system. The experiences and narratives I have described, while deeply convincing to a part of my mind, are understood by me to be part of an elaborate internal construct, a symptom of my schizoaffective disorder. I'm not atoning to the genital mutilation being truthful in my opinion, but rather acknowledging it as a central component of a belief system I'm slowly and deliberately recovering from. My objective is to manage these perceptions and understand how such a complex web of coincidences could arise if the underlying events were purely imagined. This ongoing battle with mental health requires a careful, diplomatic approach to public engagement, ensuring clarity regarding the personal nature of my struggle. You can look at these files in this folder. I'll put a link to it. You can watch both the videos. You can read the documents that go with it. This is one about the analysis of the language exploded and attacked and linguistic manipulation on one of the Saturday morning kitchen shows. And this one is her is about her eating non-occupy. You can read the blurb. This is how it presents to me as rational. I'll put a link to this in the description. But there's one more thing I just kind of wanted to touch on. Their most recent Miss Me post was almost kind of made me feel a lot more suspicious. It made me feel like they were sort of putting it to me that me trying to frame the evidence that I've got that doesn't evidence anything, but the corollary coincidental narrative as something that I'm struggling to disbelieve. And as a mental health patient, I'm looking to progress towards an understanding that, you know, fear, false evidence appearing real, that, you know, there can be loads of things that all look like everyone's talking about the same thing. I made a video a couple of days about journalistic articles being deleted. Actually, the 2015 file is still there, but the 16, 17, 18 ones have all been deleted. There's loads of stuff in the journalistic media about her explosive career and, you know, her not using her sobriety being about not using things as a crutch. Do you know what I mean? Like it, I'll show you the video. I've got it in my gallery somewhere. I don't know what the sound quality will be like, a screen recording of a screen recording. But here's Lily talking about fake fever. So what she's talking about is the idea that somebody might be ill, but they might be faking it. And it's kind of like, it's almost like making me feel that what I'm saying is accurate, it's true, and that this is actually them kind of offering a rebuttal or a retort by virtue of them saying that what I'm doing is still accusing people of genitally mutilating her and, you know, potentially harassing her, but framing it as a delusional recovery pathway, which isn't accurate. But I mean, and it also looks like she's kind of not really very happy. There's points in this video where she looks like she's kind of pretending to laugh along with it. When she's, I mean, I guess she's just still recovering from a relationship breakup, but if you can hear it.
I would tell my mum that I was feeling sick, and then I'd be like, can you come up? And then when I heard her on the stairs, I'd jump out of bed, put my head against the radiator for about 10 seconds. Oh my God, Lily. And then jump back into bed hoping that it was still fake fever. Very good. Very good. God, you're such a manipulative genius. Another life hack if you're wanting to bunk off school. Fake fever. head on the radiator.
How long would you say it would take, Lil, to give a really convincing fever?
I don't know. I don't think it really ever worked, but I'd say like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think after that you might hurt yourself.
You want to give it like 20, but if I'm saying I could hear her feet on the stairs, so I'd have to be pretty quick, you know?
So fake fever, like what are they talking about there? Is that a direct nod to my previous posts? I think it is. I think that's literally them saying, no, you're not mentally ill, and it feels like they're saying it's true. You know, this did happen, and that terrifies me. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a horrible, morbid thought that somebody tried to blow me up and viciously attacked my sister, who, because I'd had I think someone gave me like a bottle of liquid acid or something like that. Like I don't know what happened. I went to a party and I ended up in a memory clinic for 3 weeks at the age of about 16 and 17. I left Exeter and stayed with friends in Totnes, got a steady girlfriend, started labouring, stopped selling drugs, and lost touch with everybody that I knew. And after 5-6 years, I'd kind of forgotten that I'd ever had memory loss, and I'd forgotten huge swathes of my life. Loads of people that I'd met just didn't feature. One of those people was my sister. I never made any attempt to contact her in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, because I just couldn't remember who she was. I've just got an email this morning from the South Devon Memory Clinic about that. I'm trying to get my details, trying to get my records of what happened, whether I did sustain a neurological injury or whether it was misadventure due to substance misuse, or potentially I was spiked. Or I can remember having ECT, it's where they put these things like headphones on your head and they put these massive things like cigarette filters in your mouth, and the electricity makes you convulse. Electroconvulsive therapy. It's a bit like lobotomy. It's like pretty antiquated, bizarre technology. But there's 21 minutes of video. That response, the first response when I posted one of these dialectical kind of scenarios which explain that I'm trying to recover from my mental illness, and I don't have any proof of genital mutilation, nor do I want to harass or alarm or distress Lily. The first little post with the word silly in it was like a nod to me and what I'd posted. And this one about fake fever, for me, like, it's open to interpretation. I'm not accusing Makita Oliver or any of the production team of being involved in anything. I'm just saying that the way that feels, the way that through the lens of my own conscious, fastidious understanding, that feels to me like they're saying, like, it's true and you're just trying to paint yourself as a psychiatric patient to avoid persecution. And being shouted at by staff like, you don't have a sister, stop talking about it, is really offensive. But there's nothing on Google, and I don't know what her relationship was like with my father, Diorsa, our father. I don't know what Alison Owen's relationship was like with Diorsa. He became very abusive towards my mum. My mum and dad, Alethea MacLeod and Diorsa MacLeod, my biological mum and mine and Lily's biological father, were married for about 10 years. He was Kenyan, who's a white African, and I don't know if he was abusive towards, if he was, an alcoholic, or what became of him. I've got two half brothers that I've never met, John and Diorsa. I don't know that I ever will meet them. I'd like to one day, but I don't know what they think of, this whole situation, whether they know about it and they just don't talk about it, or I don't know. Like, the truth is out there, isn't it? And if you try and sort of question the truth, and someone then says you questioning the truth is just, fake, because we all know that you believe it and it's true. We both know it's true. It's kind of what that feels like. And I don't know, I mean, make your own mind up. That's it for my vlog for today. 24 minutes and 50 seconds. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And if anyone's got any photos of Lily and I together taken with cameras or camera phones around that time, about 50 people saw us together. We were well known. They used to call us Popeye and Olive Oil because, as you can see, I shattered my eye socket in school, so my eyebrows are slightly asymmetrical, and when I get drunk I've got like a lazy eye. And loads of people at the flat in Exeter at Queen's Crescent, they all met Lily, they all knew her as my sister. They were all pretty aghast at how sort of close we became, and there's countless witnesses, and loads of people who saw us together in Totnes in Exeter, knew about our trip to London. Like, everybody who lived in that flat knew Lily at the time, and I remember it clear as day. And I hope that she hasn't been genitally mutilated or viciously abused. But there is things like her newly commissioned acting role in a piece of work by Virginia Woolf, which sounds a bit like, vagina off. It's a bit of an abstraction, but like, it's there. There's a bit in that Google Drive folder, if you look at the main folder, about Caitlin Moran's production of How to Build a Woman, which again, just kind of all these little things. It's like these little things add up. Thanks, Elon. These little things add up, and I just don't know what to make of it. But if anyone's got any thing other than a smiley from the wealthiest man in the world, thank you for that, Elon. It's much obliged. Then get in touch, because I don't think we're going to have a relationship as brother and sister. Maybe we will, but we did once, and I don't wish her any harm. I want to protect her and her children and my brother, and I don't know what happened with my mum and dad. It was all a bit fishy, but I'm not trying to harass anybody. I'm trying to help the police and security services to investigate serious organised crime, and potentially a really serious thing. But at the same time, I'm trying to work out my own head and work out my own kind of discovery of what's real and what's not, because believing something that terrifies you into being too scared to go back into the community without feeling like you want to self-destruct isn't really good for anybody. And everyone in the psychiatric industry just goes on Wikipedia, no, Lily's dad is Keith Allen, everything he says about Lily is a delusion, and anything he says about anything to do with her is all delusion. And that's what it says in my medical notes, and that's the attitude of all the staff. It's probably not the attitude of all my acquaintances who knew us all at the time, but none of them are going to stick their head above the parapet and speak out. I don't know why. I could tell you why, but I'm not going to. But I know there's a reason why, and that's really sad. But I just want everybody to be able to recover, myself included, and I wish you all the best. I'll leave a link to the file folder in the description of the video. You can check out file number 39, see what you think of it.